Harper Lee, the brilliant woman who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird, was born on April 28, 1926, in Monroeville, Alabama, a small town a lot like the Maycomb in her book. Her real name was Nell Harper Lee, and she grew up seeing the unfairness of racism in the South, which inspired her story. She was a quiet person who loved writing and reading, and her best friend as a kid was Truman Capote, a famous writer who even shows up as the character Dill in the book. Harper Lee published To Kill a Mockingbird in 1960, and it became a huge hit. She didn't write many books, just this one, and Go Set a Watchman years later in 2015, but her work changed the world. She passed away in 2016, but her story still teaches us today. To Kill a Mockingbird is a classic novel set in a small town called Maycomb, Alabama in the 1930s. It's told through the eyes of a young girl named Scout Finch, who's about 6 years old when the story starts. Scout lives with her older brother, Jem, and their dad, Atticus Finch, who's a lawyer. The book follows Scout and Jem as they grow up, play with their friend Dill, and learn big lessons about life. The main event is when Atticus defends a black man named Tom Robinson, who's accused of a crime he didn't commit. The town is full of racism, and people don't like Atticus helping Tom. Meanwhile, Scout and Jem are curious about their mysterious neighbor, Boo Radley, who never comes outside. The story is about growing up, understanding people, and fighting for what's right, even when it's hard.
Scout Finch, a smart, curious little girl who loves to ask questions. She's tough and doesn't always follow rules, but she learns to see the world differently by the end. Jem Finch, Scout's older brother, about 10 at the start. He's brave and looks up to Atticus. He gets upset when he sees how unfair the world can be. Atticus Finch, Scout and Jem's dad. He's a kind, wise lawyer who believes everyone deserves respect. He teaches his kids to stand up for justice, even if others don't agree. Tom Robinson, a black man falsely accused of attacking a white girl, Mayella Ewell. He's honest and hardworking, but the town's racism makes life unfair for him. Boo Radley, Arthur Radley, a quiet, shy man who lives next door and never leaves his house. People make up scary stories about him, but he turns out to be gentle and caring. Calpurnia, the Finch family's black housekeeper. She's strict but loving and helps raise Scout and Jem like a mom. Mayella Ewell, a poor, lonely white girl who accuses Tom of a crime. She's scared and controlled by her mean dad, Bob Ewell. Bob Ewell, Mayella's rude, racist father. He's the real bad guy and causes trouble for everyone. Dill Harris, Scout, and Jem's fun, imaginative friend who visits Maycomb in the summers. He's based on Harper Lee's real-life friend, Truman Capote. Racism and inequality. The book shows how unfair life was for black people in the South back then. Tom Robinson gets treated badly just because of his skin color, even though he's innocent. Growing up, Scout and Jem start as kids who don't understand everything. By the end, they learn about courage, kindness, and how complicated people can be. Courage. Atticus shows courage by defending Tom, even when the town hates him for it. Boo shows courage by saving the kids later on. Understanding others. Atticus teaches Scout to walk in someone else's shoes, to try to see why people act the way they do before judging them. Justice. The story asks, what's fair? Tom's trial shows that sometimes the law doesn't protect everyone equally. Mockingbirds. A mockingbird is a bird that only sings and doesn't hurt anyone. In the book, it's a symbol for innocent people like Tom and Boo, who get hurt by others for no reason. The tree Boo leaves little gifts for Scout and Jem in a tree. It's a sign of his kindness and how he connects with them secretly. Guns Atticus doesn't like guns, but he's a great shooter. This shows he has power, but chooses peace over fighting. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Atticus says this to Scout. It's about empathy, trying to feel what others feel. It's a sin to kill a mockingbird. This comes up early and explains the book's title. It's about protecting innocent people. The one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience. Atticus says this. It means you should do what's right, even if everyone else disagrees. I wanted you to see what real courage is, instead of getting the idea that courage is a man with a gun in his hand. Atticus teaches Jem that bravery isn't about fighting, it's about standing up for what's right. People generally see what they look for, and hear what they listen for. This shows how people's beliefs shape what they think is true. Author, Harper Lee, born in 1926 in Alabama. She based Maycomb on her own hometown. Published, 1960. Awards, won the Pulitzer Prize in 1961, a big deal for books. Setting 1930s Alabama during the Great Depression, when money was tight and racism was strong. Fun fact, Harper Lee only wrote one other book, Go Set a Watchman, which came out much later in 2015. Movie, there's a famous 1962 film with Gregory Peck as Atticus. It won Oscars. To Kill a Mockingbird is a book that makes you think and feel. It's easy to love Scout because she's so honest and funny, even when she's confused. Atticus is like a superhero without a cape. He's calm, fair, and always tries to do the right thing. The story can be sad, especially when Tom doesn't get justice, but it's also hopeful because Scout and Jem learn to be better people. The book is great for students because it's about real-life problems, like bullying, unfairness, and figuring out who you are. Sometimes the old-fashioned words or slow parts might feel tricky, but stick with it. The lessons are worth it. It's not just a story. It's a way to understand the world better. If you're a student, this book is perfect for learning about history, fairness, and growing up. It's taught in schools because it asks big questions. How should we treat people? What's bravery? Plus, the characters feel like friends you'll never forget. Whether you read it for class or fun, To Kill a Mockingbird stays with you.